Hey everyone, I hope everyone is doing well. This is Curtis. So I know a lot of you were upset about the election. Um, there are a lot of people on the left who, were really upset that Kamala lost. A lot of people on the left also were happy because of Kamala's stance on Gaza that she lost, and they feel happy that they're able to punish the Democrats, which I think is nonsense because Democrats cannot be punished, at least by anyone on the left. But a lot of people, there's been a lot of narratives around how the Democratic Party abandoned the working class, which is bullshit. The white working class actually, if you accept the election results, supported Trump. Democratic Party is this and that, and most of these narratives are myths. The election was not legitimate. The election was stolen, and I can prove that. First, let's go back. So, we do not live in a democracy. Is the I think the number one thing to understand. I feel like a lot of people, oftentimes, whenever they talk about elections and election results, that question never comes into the forefront about how we do not live in a democracy. If you actually look at it, America is a constitutional republic. And the founding slave masters never intended for the people to have a say on the government. That's why they implemented the Electoral College. And throughout most of this country, people couldn't vote. Black people couldn't vote until 1965. Women couldn't vote up until 1900s. Black people still can't vote today. If you're in prison, you can't vote. And they have voter suppression bills in close to about 30 different states, which make it harder to vote. So, when you look at all that, you realize that no, I mean, there hasn't been any legitimate election in these here United States because of the existence of the Electoral College and systematic white supremacy. But on top of that, we have technology in this country that makes it easy to steal elections. The technology was invented after the advent of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, when Black people were enfranchised. Of course, we still are disenfranchised in many respects, but formally enfranchised. And that technology is known as the electronic voting machine. Now, computers are hackable. There's millions of people throughout the world who, they spend their whole life trying to figure out how to hack computers and come up with viruses and the like. So the idea that a computer controlled by a private corporation could be deciding our elections has got to be the biggest fraud on the planet. If we live in a basically a nation controlled by corporations and they're buying up our politicians, why in the fuck will we allow these corporations to control our elections? But in this country, that is the reality. When myself or any one of you who live in the United States go out to vote, your vote was cast on a computer and counted by a computer. And the media takes those computer results as gospel. Oh, this is what the results say. The results say this. Okay, this is what we're going to report. But there's never, any questions from the media. Again, media is controlled by the same corporations that control, the voting, the voting machine vendors. They're all connected. If you, really look at it, people who work on the same stock boards, who work on the same shareholder boards, they're all connected. So of course the media is not going to be really critical of, of the results of the electronic voting machines because in truth, for a long time, results in this country were counted by hand, but that takes a long time. And of course, there can still even be fraud with that because of systematic white supremacy. There are people in this country who do not, who do not believe in the concept of democracy. I think they've made themselves very clear. You can look at somebody like Peter Thiel. He's openly states who's backing J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. He does not believe in the idea of democracy. He does not believe in the idea that women should have the right to vote. So there are plenty of people in this country who have a lot of political power, who do not believe in the idea of democracy. The Heritage Foundation, which is pretty much owns the Republican Party, they don't believe in democracy. They say it in all their meetings. So, of course, you had voting shenanigans even back in the day before the advent of these electronic voting machines. But now it's easier because you can steal an election without a trail, without a paper trail. Because again, if we're all voting in these computers, we don't know the computer tells us what the results are. But oftentimes there's not any real audits that take place. They're damn sure, particularly in this case, there's not a recount. Kamala Harris conceded the next morning after she supposedly lost. And people just take it and take the results as face value and never ask any critical questions. Where do we get these results from? Who was counting them? Can the counts be verified? Was there any, machinations? And particularly after Trump weaponized the notion of election fraud in 2020. With the whole stop the steal bullshit. It totally, because, for a long time, there were people who were legitimate, who had good faith reasons for being critical of the election system, who raised red flags about, hey, these private corporations are controlling our elections through these hackable electronic voting machines. Some of these voting machines are controlled by corporations which have close ties to Republicans. The reason why these machines even get their contracts from these local governments, state governments, is because they lobby and they spend money. And you've had situations where the exit polls and even the pre-election polls show one result, and then it's a completely different result. So people have raised legitimate issues. And remember now, in the 2000 election, that's when all this really kind of popped off, because you had the stolen election by George Bush, where, you had the whole hanging chads, but it was also discovered that you had voting machines switching Gore votes to Bush votes in many counties in Florida. So this has been a narrative for a long time. You even have major presidential candidates like Jill Stein and Jan Baraka released a press release in 2016 that stated that, hey, if we're going to have a democracy, we cannot have these private corporations controlling our electoral process. So there have been people who have been raising this red flag for many years now. And there was even a really good book called Vote Scam by James Collier, who exposed how the whole system is rigged and these electronic voting machines are put in place to steal elections. In the 2016 primary, it was noted that there were some shenanigans. Bernie was up in the polls, but Hillary ended up winning the primary. So again, this has been something that people have been talking about for a long time. And here come these Republicans and turn this into this tinfoil conspiracy theory because they want to steal the election. Trump wanted to wage a coup in 2020. He lost the election, according to the exit polls put out by Edison. He lost. He lost. He admitted he lost. He was angry that he lost. Because he's a white supremacist and a sore loser and a sociopath, he wanted to create a lie that he didn't. And then, media, as oftentimes in the case, they create false equivalencies. So anyone now who questions elections, whether they be Stacey Abrams, who Brian Kemp stole the election from her in 2018, the motherfucker was actually the Secretary of State and was administering the elections in 2018, was suppressing votes. There was evidence that votes for Abrams were being switched to Kemp. And she raised red flags about the election, and they would oftentimes media, will kind of attack her. But now it becomes a situation where anybody, whether you have evidence or not, anybody who questions the election is an election denier. Anyone, just like they do with the issue of vaccines, anyone, you might have raise issues of vaccines being made by corporations and some of the ingredients in vaccines. And you might have, really good hard data. You might not be like one of these weirdo hydrochloroquine motherfuckers on the Joe Rogan show. But anybody who raised a critique of vaccines is an anti-vaxxer. Nonsense. But that's what the media does. So they kind of put people into a box, and then they make people afraid to even voice some of their concerns. But yes, we live in a country where elections are determined by computers with private source codes controlled by private entities for profit who have close ties to the Republican Party. And the Republican Party has a history of programming these machines to rig the election in their favor. They did it in 2000, documented evidence of that. In 2004, documented evidence of that. In 2016, documents of evidence of that. In 2020, there was some evidence of that. Of course, it didn't, there was, Trump actually lost the state of North Carolina, but it showed that he won, according to the exit polls. Biden still won the election, but it would have been a bigger margin. So he would have really been shitting his pants because, he would have been embarrassed. The margin would have been close to the so-called margin that he won for in this most recent stolen election. So, yeah, so that's the reality. So it's okay to question the results. That doesn't make you, some right-wing whack job. It just makes you, a rational human being. Damn, she was up in the pre-election polls. She had all this support, and again, a lot of people don't like Kamala Harris. That's fine. You ain't gotta like her. I'm not a fan of her. But are you a fan of democracy? And if you are against fascism, you must understand that this is how fascism comes into place. Fascism comes into place through cheating, through force, through manipulation. When Hitler came into power, he created some terrorist attack. In 1933, a mysterious fire, and he blamed it on the communists. And then was like, yeah, we need to, Nazis need to come into power to make Germany safe. It's people who look at 9/11. A lot of people say that George Bush allegedly allowed the attacks to happen, or it was an inside job. But look at the results from that. We have Guantanamo, which is still around to this day, and endless wars on terror, which continue and will definitely continue under Trump, especially since this recent so-called terrorist attack in New Orleans. So, yes, the election was stolen, without a doubt. And a lot of people, after election results were announced, were like, "Damn, how did she lose?" And and my ballot, I looked online and it wasn't counted. And some of the pre-election polls showed that she was winning. 48. It was close, but she was up. And some of the polls in these different states showed that she was up. In Wisconsin and Michigan, but she ended up losing. But if you look at the exit polls by Edison, just like you look at the exit polls in 2020 and 2016, there is a discrepancy. Now, most election monitors, exit polls are done right after, the votes are tallied by voters. They're done by, different organizations, and they're usually highly accurate. And oftentimes they're used as a gold standard for election monitors in different countries to see if there's any election fraud. And, in these situations where the exit polls don't match the official results, then, sometimes, it's cause to be investigated. Now, usually what happens is that in America, oftentimes the exit polls and the voting tallies oftentimes do not match. Again, because, of the hackable, riggable electronic voting machines, which, both parties, but primarily Republicans, use in their favor. Usually in this country, the exit polls not matching the official counts always favors the more conservative candidate. So, like I mentioned in 2016 primary, the more conservative candidate was Clinton. The exit polls showed that Bernie was winning. Official results showed that Hillary won. That's an example. 2016, the more conservative candidate was Trump. A lot of exit polls showed that Clinton won Michigan and Pennsylvania, North Carolina, but the official results showed that Trump had won. Exit polls in the 2024 election showed that Harris had beaten Trump in Georgia, in North Carolina, and Wisconsin, Michigan. The official results showed something completely different. So, and there was a really good documentary that I watched a long time ago called Murder, Lies, and Vote Spies. And a guy named Clinton Curtis, named after me, exposed how these Republicans were like basically, hacking into these voting machines and coming up with codes to manipulate the results in their favor. Even before the election, some of the Trump allies, it was noted in 2023, had hacked into the voting machines here in Georgia, in Coffee County, I believe. They hacked into the voting machines and was able to get the source code. And there were a lot of posts online showing that how they were putting up the source code online, which could have, enabled them to hack the Dominion machines. Not only that, but you have ENS. ENS is a voting machine vendor because there's mostly about three. There's ENS, Dominion, and another one. I can't think of the name of it now. But ENS has close ties to the Republican Party. They make donations. They have close ties to them. And they also count a lot of the votes in many of these different swing states. And, it was found by a lot of different, computer scientists that because of the hacking that occurred, that it will possibly be able to affect the results in these different swing states. Because remember, Trump pulled out a stunning feat and won all the swing states, all 7. Which a lot of people were like, damn, okay. He won all these 7 swing states, which Democrats had a lot of success in down ballot. So in North Carolina, the Democrats pretty much swept all the down ballot races, but Trump won the president. In Arizona, Democrats won the senator, and a lot of other down ballot races, but Trump won the president. In Michigan and Wisconsin, and I was people were kind of pointing out this is weird that people would just go to the ballot and just vote for Trump and then vote for Democrats down ballot or just submit one singular vote for Trump. But according to some people, this could be proof that this election was hacked, because again, the math ain't mathing. So because, the Trump allies were able to access the voting machines here in Georgia, and also you had the bomb threats, which could have, altered the chain of custody for those who are monitoring the voting machines. And because a lot of the voting machines, have internet access. I mean, keep in mind that, you have spyware in this country, because most computers have internet access, that makes them more susceptible to viruses and to being hacked. And the computers in this country, the electronic voting machines, oftentimes are connected to the internet. So you have that. You have the ability for the computers to be hacked. You have evidence that the computers were hacked. And then you have the bomb threats. And then you also have the motive. Look, Elon Musk openly talked about, I will coup whomever I want to. Put it on Twitter in response to, because they had an attempted coup in Bolivia so Elon could control their lithium, use it for his crappy ass piece of shit scam electric cars, which are destroying the planet. And, burn, and get, and always want to be set on fire just randomly. It's weird. He admitted that he likes to coup. So, Elon Musk believes in coups. He believes in, stealing elections from people. He does not believe in democracy. Donald Trump does not believe in democracy. That's why he tried to wage a coup in 2020. He was convicted of all these different crimes. He did not want to go to jail. So he has a motive to want to steal the election. And the people behind him, the Heritage Foundation, all these white supremacists, they don't believe in democracy. They openly talk about how they try to, steal elections. They tried to steal it in 2020. They killed police to try to steal it. What more do you need to at least consider the allegations that the election was stolen? So I'm making this video to, number one, say that the election was stolen, and I will provide receipts in the description. But for people to understand that, that if the election, because I'm a certain election is stolen, then that means we're living in very dangerous times. Look at what happened, when Bush stole the election in 2000. He just obliterated the entire world. And what's Trump going to do? I mean, he is a warmonger. He's already threatening to invade Panama and wants to annex Greenland. So, we're just supposed to just, oh yeah, well, he won. No. And I've even reached out to people. I've reached out to presidential candidates and said, hey, this election looks fraudulent. But a lot of people didn't want to touch it because they actually wanted Kamala to lose. And I understand, because they don't like her stance on Gaza. They don't like the Democratic Party. They feel like the Republican Party is the least effective evil. You hear that from Green Party people a lot. Which I guess, would mean that it's a good thing. Maybe Republicans get in office. So you had a lot of people on the left who were actually happy that Kamala lost. But again, regardless of whether you like someone, are the elections free and fair? Because, if you claim to be a leftist and you're not even willing to entertain that idea, and maybe willing to see that, hey, this election could be fraudulent and that this election was stolen from Black voters, it's like, well, hold on, leftists. I thought you're supposed to represent and be sympathetic to the Black cause. Because essentially, these voting machines were implemented after Black folks got the right to vote. So white supremacists could continue to steal elections from Black folks. And, even without the voting machines, that's, again, millions of Black folks are still disenfranchised to this day. So, can we really accept these election results even without the machines? So no, the election of 2024 was a fascist coup. It was stolen to enable the full-blown fascism that we're about to see from Trump and his billionaire administration. They're going to crash the economy. People are going to be mass deported. There's going to be mass executions. And there's going to be mass wars and mass suppression of people who resist Trump's agenda. But because from what I'm seeing, the left is kind of twiddling their thumbs and giving up and trying to unite with the white supremacists. They're saying, oh, yep, man, we told the Democrats she was bad. We told her she was a cop. We told her about Gaza. We told her about, and then, and they're not even entertaining. I think Tom Hartman was the only one that on the left that might even platform someone who said the election was fraudulent. Had some stuff going on. Everyone else, it's like, damn, Jill Stein, you put out a whole press release saying that, these elections could be stolen with these electronic voting machines. You actually requested a recount in Wisconsin in 2016. You ain't had nothing to say? Is that Republican money, maybe preventing you from saying something? Because I know you took a lot of donations and support from Republicans. So yes, y'all, the election was stolen. And again, that's what fascists do. They steal elections. They engage in coups, in order to implement their authoritarian, genocidal agenda. And, and yes, Democrats deserve a lot of blame as well, too, because, again, because, they in 2000, they pretty much allowed the theft to occur, even though a lot of Black leaders and were coming out saying that this election was fraudulent. There's a lot of proof. We need to request a recount. They laid down and conceded. Now, of course, the Supreme Court ultimately made the final decision, but the Democrats, kind of, You're like, okay, yeah, even though this looks fraudulent, and the Republicans control the Supreme Court, and they're not allowing like the actual counting of votes. Okay, let's just move on. Let's just support. Let's just come together. So they lied down in 2000, and they lied down in 2024, partially as a result of media framing. Because right now, when I post this video, you're going to see, oh, the Electoral College confirmed the election of Donald Trump. So, I'm going to be like a conspiracy theorist, even though I have receipts, even though I provided evidence of future stolen elections. I provided history. I provided all types of data and facts. Oh, I'm the conspiracy theorist. Oh, or some people on the left may feel like, oh, well, they'll still deny this evidence because they just don't like Kamala Harris and they want Democrats to lose. Because they want to be right instead of standing on principle. So, yeah, those are times that we're in. And I mean, and the reality is that, there is no chance, of democracy in this country, of third parties, whatever it is you believe in, as long as you have corporations controlling our electoral process. I mean, of course, we need to get rid of electoral college. There needs to be reforms. If if you want to bring about some more vibrant third parties, we need to kind of do ranked choice voting in order to get rid of the two-party system. But for right now, as it stands, these corporations control our elections. And until we have hand-marked paper ballots counted by hand, we don't live in a democracy. And I'll be another example of such. So please, y'all, stop with the cap. Stop with Trump won. He did not. He lost in 2016. He stole it. He tried to steal it in 2020 and he stole it now. How the fuck did Elon Musk know the election results like 4 hours before the media announced it? Because he was likely in on the steal. He has access to satellites. And again, he likes to have coups, so he does not believe in democracy. He's a billionaire. He's a fascist. He comes from apartheid South Africa. I mean, what more of a fascist piece of S could you get to run this country? And that's who our president is now. So, of course, someone like that would try to steal the election, the world's most richest man. Rich people like him are always looking for more and more and more power so they can implement their vision of the world upon the rest of us. We just got to take it. But no, I'm not taking it. This election was stolen, and I encourage everyone. We need to get rid of those electronic voting machines, and we need to engage in radical resistance against this fascist authoritarian regime that's about to come in. So thank you for watching. Hope you all have a great day. Please like, share, and subscribe. Share this video, and see you again.